All right, well, welcome everyone. Nate from Userlytics here. Very, very excited. Today we're going to be discussing Global Accessibility Awareness Day, a very exciting time and just a chance for us to bring some awareness to the accessibility space within UX research and digital design. I have a few experts from the Perficient team with me today, Lisa and Samdisha. Lisa, why don't you go ahead and give us a quick introduction, and then Samdisha, over to you.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa McMichael, and I've been chatting with Userlytics and Nate for quite a while about various accessibility topics and the opportunity to do this. Yeah, this week is Global Accessibility Awareness sort of week, not just the day, and just excited about that. But yeah, I'm with Perficient, Senior Manager of Digital Accessibility, and just really, like you, excited to be able to talk about GAD Day.
Hey everyone, I'm Samdisha, and I've been working with Perficient for quite some time on the accessibility team for over 3 years, and I work as a test lead for one of our major automotive clients, and I'm a senior business consultant here.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Again, really excited to have this conversation today. My name's Nate from the Userlytics team. I'm a senior account manager, work with some of the biggest Fortune 500 companies when it comes to them doing their research on our remote UX research platform. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about GAD, Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Lisa, I'll start with you. Can you just give us a little background on what GAD is, where it came from, and how did it get started?
Yeah, so the background on GAD is kind of interesting. A software developer, Joe Devon, he wrote a blog that another person recognized the blog and thought it was really neat. It was about accessibility, and I think Joe was putting out feelers to try to create some sense of community with other either developers and things like that. And so that's really the foundation of GAD Day. I think we're in year 20 now of celebrating it, if I'm not mistaken, 19 or 20 years. Yeah.
Excellent. And Sandisha, from your perspective, 20 years in running with GAD Day, really a lot of history there. How have you seen GAD kind of evolve over the years, from your perspective?
Yeah, so I mean, like Lisa mentioned, she gives a background of how it started and when it started. From what I know, that the purpose of GAD was to get everyone talking, basically. It's just, we all know there's more than 1 billion people in the world with some sort of a disability or an impairment. And so just to spread that kind of awareness, just to get everyone talking, to create this more inclusive digital environment with everyone, the policymakers, the developers, the testers, anyone who is incorporating web accessibility in their work in some form or shape should keep digital accessibility in mind. And I think that's how it all started. And yeah, that's how it's been progressing, and it's progressing great so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And we've seen a lot, there's been a lot of federal regulations around accessibility. So definitely a good time for companies and organizations to start looking into this. I guess another question I have for you, for those who aren't super, aware of accessibility and kind of what the importance is from the digital side. Lisa, how would you say that accessibility benefits, web users, those with and also without disabilities?
Yeah, it's interesting. The great question, and I think that there's a lot of different ways to answer that question because it's a big question, right? It's kind of an expansive question. I think that for most people, really starting to think about accessibility, digital accessibility specifically, is you just kind of need to get started. And it's going to be a long journey. It's not something that you can adopt into your design process overnight. It takes, months, years of refining. Takes a lot of training and education. I do a fair amount of that for our largest equipment manufacturing client. And there's just, I think, back to my point about getting started, I think an organization or even a group of people within an organization need to have a point of view and a clear statement about what they're trying to accomplish. because a lot of what we do in digital accessibility is specifically intended to make user experiences accessible for people with different kinds of disabilities. Interestingly, it does tend to benefit everyone, kind of that curb cut effect. When you create something that works really well for a blind or low vision web user, a person who has color contrast deficiency, then all of a sudden you're pulling in other web users because you're making that experience a better quality experience. And that's something that for someone starting out, either a person who's trying to build his or her own path in digital accessibility, or whether it's the organization, I think just thinking about, what can we do now? What does our roadmap look like? What can we accomplish in year 1, year 2? So it's not unlike designing for non-disabled web experiences, but I think we've learned that there's a lot more nuance to digital accessibility. And I'll say one last thing, I'd love for Samdisha to chime in, is I think it really also starts with user research. You're going to have to involve people who can give feedback, and whether it's in an interview or whether it's a survey or if it's an actual interacting with Userlytics platform, where you're testing out a prototype. You really need the people who are directly involved in benefiting from digital accessibility to give feedback.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's awesomely described, I would say. The only other thing that's coming to my mind with my work experience is just kind of going along the lines that Lisa explained, is the shift left approach. So I work with actually a bunch of developers, business analysts in my work experience too. And what I've noticed is that with this, I always try to advocate for, like what I mentioned, shift left, which is basically nothing but making sure that accessibility is integrated in the very start of the phase itself. So that would be design phase, planning phase, implementation, not kind of making it more like an afterthought once the development is complete, and then the testing cycle begins, and then all of the critical issues are found, and then the remediation process begins. That's not the time where it's supposed to be implemented. It should initially be baked in the very beginning of the planning and design phase itself. And that is what I kind of advocate for and work with my teams of different applications and different development teams and testing teams. And so back to your question where you said how it benefits people, not just with disabilities, but also without disabilities, is various ways. And again, from my work, the most common example that's coming to my mind right now is using closed captions, for example. Now, using closed captions with videos not only helps people, we all know helps people with disabilities, but even with someone who does not have a disability, say maybe a group of people, like elderly group of people, maybe someone who has a sensory overload, maybe someone suffering from ADHD who prefers to watch a video with closed captions because that actually helps them focus more and makes them understand the video better. So that's one good example of using closed captions where it benefits not just someone with a disability, but also just people around the world. The other common one that's come to my mind, again, with work experience, is navigation using keyboard. That's, again, not just helpful for someone who's suffering from some sort of a motor disability, but also, say, someone who has a temporary disability. Maybe they have a broken arm, maybe RSV, maybe someone who suffers from hand tremors, in fact, who finds using mouse difficult to use when the person is navigating through the web page and would rather prefer to use keyboard to navigate. So there's various examples like this that we see in our day-to-day world where, incorporating, like I said, or baking in accessibility from the very beginning itself and not treating it as an afterthought helps people all around the world and not someone who necessarily has an impairment.
And I'd like to touch on that, Nate, sorry, I didn't hear, but this is the point again about user research. That's why Userlytics platform, there are others out there, but today we're talking about Userlytics, that the fact that Userlytics has taken that step to be able to recruit and screen individuals who can come in and really give lived experience feedback. This works for me, this really doesn't work for me, this interaction is confusing. So Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. I think it's a great point, for those watching who are interested. Hey, I would love to get on a call, live interview with some people with specific disabilities. How can I even do that? The Userlytics platform is something that can help you source those participants. Samdisha, one thing I want to just reiterate on, I love what you said about having accessibility at kind of the forefront of your entire design process, right? Not just coming in at the end and, oh, we need to include this in, really having that baked in, because having, a very accessible website or design process, that's really going to help everyone, even if you don't have maybe a specific type of disability. So we talked about how it benefits the users, the people at the end of the day using the products and the designs. I want to talk a little bit about the organization because it's definitely important. A lot of stakeholders out there, hey, if we're going to invest money, invest, employee time into accessibility, where is this going to benefit the organization? Samdisha, I'll start with you first this time. Can you talk a little bit about the benefit of accessibility on an organizational level?
Sure. There's actually not just one benefit, but there's multiple benefits actually the organizations will see once they incorporate accessibility. And as we just talked about from my previous examples that I was just giving, how it benefits people all around the world. If you take organizations in mind, that would actually increase their customer base, because if they're designing a website or a product with keeping accessibility in mind, it is definitely bound to reach more users and not just a certain specific set of people. And then the others with maybe certain disabilities or impairments cannot even access those websites or cannot use them as smoothly as the others. So that's one big one. Again, with this improved user experience, you're going to see improved SEO, improved ranking. There's going to be, you're definitely, as an industry, you'd have a competitive edge over the other companies who may or may not design their products keeping accessibility in mind. And again, we all know there's this legal factor to it. I mean, every country has laws requiring digital accessibility, so there's definitely that aspect to it as well. Yeah, I would say just keeping more inclusivity in mind is just going to give you, it's also not just beneficial for increasing your ranking, but also I think corporations should have the social responsibility of doing something correct in mind. So all of these factors together, I would say, are very beneficial for industries.
Yeah, I would agree absolutely, Samdisha. I don't know what else to tack on there other than with this looming European Accessibility Act, I think it was launched in 2019. Countries have the ability to decide what kind of sanctions, if you will, for individual organizations that don't comply, and that starts in June, July of next year. But they're going to be pretty severe in many cases. So I think organizations have a window of time right now, about a year, to, if they have not established what I'd call a point of view, decided what type of investment they're prepared to make to get their accessibility practice off the ground, who they need to involve, because it's not just the accessibility team. You need to have other partners, behind you as well. But that takes time. And that's something that I'm thinking about a lot lately, is how to encourage organizations to think seriously about this. Because if you're doing business in the European Union, it could affect your organization in a very negative way. And you can avoid that by taking advantage of this window of time and getting prepared. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Definitely something to think about if you haven't already started thinking about it. Lisa, we've had a bunch of discussions over, the past year or even longer about accessibility and things that the Perficient team is doing. Have to say, out of, everyone I've worked with, Perficient is definitely one of the industry leaders in accessibility. You guys work with some of the biggest companies really around the globe. Can you talk a little bit about like what Perficient is doing specifically with accessibility, maybe where different clients are asking for this in the business that you guys do?
Sure. Well, I've been full-time on a accessibility work, I should say, since roughly July of 2022. And it started with presenting a point of view to this very large equipment manufacturer. And I don't know if the timing was right or what, but the client was like, yes, we're ready to start. And so because this client had experience working with the airlines and standing up accessibility when the Air Carrier Act, was mandated, he did not need education and motivation. He really understood what needed to happen. So that particular client has just been terrific. Immediately we started developing our set of interviews and then a roadmap off of those interviews as to what our next steps would be. And we knew immediately, because of the size of the organization being global, I think roughly 150,000 employees worldwide, we needed a center of excellence for accessibility. So, and that's something that I continuously work with my ACO team on the client side to groom and improve it. But again, I mentioned training earlier. I can't underscore how important it is to provide continuous upskilling, because some team members with this client had some background and experience, others had none. So we were constantly trying to help those with skill to get even better, and keep them challenged and learning new things, but also encouraging those individuals who know they need to get started with it, feel a little intimidated, to demystify all that, know that, we all started there. It takes a long time to get to be what you might consider an expert. And then, there's always new things to learn. So, with this particular client, it's been, everyone's extremely receptive. When you're asked to do something, they jump right on it. And so we're really fortunate in that particular example. I know we've also done some work in healthcare. That's an industry that I haven't worked in hands-on in a while, but that's another one that they reach out to us, like Samdisha, myself, and our team members, if they have questions about, should I do this or do that? What's my next best step? So we work across the Perficient sort of business units with all the different commerce, what have you, areas to make sure that we're all collaborating and sharing knowledge, not just with our clients, but across our internal Perficient teams.
Amazing. Always good to have a partner with some know-how, some knowledge and experience in the space. Super important. Want to switch gears just a little bit. One of the hottest topics in the UX space in the last couple of years has been AI and the inclusion of AI. How is it going to help me? Is it going to take my job? Things like that. But want to talk about AI and accessibility. Samdisha, I'll throw it your way. How have you seen AI creating accessible experiences in our space?
That's definitely a good one. For my personal experience, I would again say that with AI, there's definitely positives, as we all know. I mean, we've experienced it, seen it on our own in so many different ways and so many different applications that we use on our day-to-day basis. But I would also say there's everything that has some positive, has some negative, or some plus and minus to it both. With plus, I mean, like I said, we all know that it benefits with just most commonly, I would say, people with visual impairments, for example. A lot of these AI-driven tools, such as screen readers or text-to-speech softwares, are able to interpret and vocalize the text, in fact, on the screen. And so even with use of media files on the pages, the image recognition technologies that we all know can even help a lot of visually impaired users in that sense. And then again, the other one is providing alternative descriptive text to all of these media files. So there's definitely a lot of positives there. Like I said, there's also some minuses or some negatives, which I would say with my testing experience and leading the testing team, we notice collectively as a team that about 60 to 70% defects are found by using manual testing process, and about 30 to 40% are found by using these automated tools. So that is definitely an interesting thing for me to see if we automate everything, moving towards more and more towards these AI tools and sort of kind of moving away from the direction of manual testing and eliminating that, where that would really take us and how beneficial that would be. I mean, I know in the real world, we have seen and we use a lot of these apps itself. I mean, a lot of us use Apple products, so we know how Siri helps us in different ways. Alexa with Amazon, and then there's whole different examples of Microsoft, Google, all doing their own great things. My personal experience with automotive industry, we all know that there's these electric vehicles these days, Tesla being one of the common ones that everybody knows about. But even the other big ones, such as GM, Toyota, Ford, the common one that's, again, the example for Ford that's come to my mind is Ford's Copilot 360 technology. That includes features like automated emergency braking, and that really helps someone with disabilities to navigate through traffic and even avoid collisions in cases. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of pluses, but like I said, completely moving away from the direction of manually testing and manually making sure everything's good. I would, like I said, be very interested to see where that takes us. That's just my
Yeah,
personal take on it.
yeah, Samdisha, I'm with you. I think human inspection will still be needed, even if we get to the point of an automated tool can catch 100% of the defects. I think there still needs to be that person who can balance, judgment around evaluating and deciding is this good to go as a test result, or do we need to dig in and look at a particular screen or an interaction or a component a little more closely and make sure that it is behaving the way we want. And again, back to Userlytics, that's where, saying, okay, let's bring in the actual web users who are going to be positively affected by this. How can we make sure that they are, getting what they think they're going to be getting with this experience? So, yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Definitely a new area of opportunity, but also, some guidelines needed and some precautionary steps on the AI front. AI is used in the Userlytics platform, so we're excited to see where it goes. Coming to the end of our time here, again, just want to thank you both again for spending the time, giving some really great examples and some thoughts. Again, GAD day, GAD week, GAD month. Always a good time to have accessibility kind of in your mind as you go through your different research and designs. Last question I'll ask you both. For those viewing this who are like, I'm interested in accessibility, don't know exactly where to start. Samdisha, I'll start with you. What's kind of one good thing to think about, or one good place for someone to start on their accessibility to design and research journey?
I would say to raise awareness, I think, like I said, how I started, to get people talking. I mean, I'm going to talk with my personal experience. I mean, just, you don't know anything about accessibility, maybe reach out to someone, maybe speak to someone who knows. Google it, check as much as you can. Maybe the most easiest, the two things that I always ask anytime I'm giving a training to my testers, to anyone who's new to the team and onboarding people, I always say, if you're completely green on accessibility and you're working on this website or a web page, I would say just to go on a web page, completely navigate through the web page from top to bottom using just your keyboard. See where that takes you, see how much you're able to understand, see how much you're able to get to all of the buttons, the links, and how much you're able to progress with those if you did not have a mouse with you. The other one I always recommend is just downloading a screen reader and just maybe thinking from a perspective of someone who's visually impaired and might be just navigating through the web page using just the screen reader and trying to hear from their perspective what they would be listening and what they would trying to understand and how they would navigate through the web page. So I would say just kind of jumping on it, getting some tools installed, get people talking, speak to someone who knows and understands and can explain you better. I would say it's the way to go and to get started.
Love it, Samdisha. Same question to you, Lisa. Where can someone start? What's something to think about as they start that journey?
Well, I don't think I can add much more to what Samdisha just shared. I will say that my personal experience, and maybe this would resonate with other people, is it started by reading a book called Design for Disability. And it's just a beautiful tabletop quality book that addresses disability in a very broad way. And that was 13 years ago, I think. And I still have the book, and I look at it once in a while for motivation and and reassurance that, I'm moving in the right direction. So to Samdisha's point, it could be a conversation with the person who has background in this, who's willing to maybe engage with you and help kind of semi-mentor you and encourage you along your path. It could be a book. It could be a video where you've watched a speaker and you feel very empowered and the light bulb comes on, like, I need to add this to my design toolkit. I can't sit on my back feet and expect, that it's just going to evolve and I'm not going to be able to, I need to be able to keep up and participate. So I think there's different ways to get into it. And so I think just get started and go for the ride. It's been incredibly rewarding. I think certainly for me, I can't speak for Samdisha, but probably for her too.
Definitely.
Well, I couldn't agree more. The most important step is the first one. So for anyone watching, go out there and start that journey. Just as I kind of wrap this up here again, my name's Nate Brown with Userlytics. You can find me on LinkedIn, message me if you're interested. And we have a free case study of an accessibility study that we've done at Userlytics. Would love to send it to you for free. Lisa, Samdisha, for anyone watching that's interested in connecting with Perficient, where can they find you? Where can they find you at?
I guess my email handle, lisa.mcmichael@perficient.com. It's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Same for me too. My email is samdisha.singh@perficient.com, and that would be the best place to reach me. Shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to respond.
And I was going to mention LinkedIn. You can find, I know I'm on LinkedIn a bit, so yeah.
Awesome. Well, again, I really appreciate you both. Thank you for your thoughts and your words today. And we'll put up probably some contact information for anyone looking to reach out. But once again, happy GAD Day, and I'm sure we'll be chatting with everyone very soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much.